I'm just sitting here thinking about my history in photography and where I started and where I've been and where I've come from. And I'm thinking about one of the biggest L's, one of my first L's I ever took in photography. And how it goes is that I used to work at Wolf Camera. And in Wolf Camera, I used to sell film and I used to sell cameras. And I used to also work in the developing department. And this lady waltzed into the store, this white lady, and she spoke to one of my colleagues about doing a photo session and doing something for her sweet 16, for her daughter, for her sweet 16. And everybody directed her to me. I was an up and coming photography. I think photographer. I was about maybe 2 years, 3 years in, and up until that point, I was only shooting black people. I've done a little parties here and there, little birthday parties, little picnic parties, and stuff like that. Never done anything at a big, grand type events at that point. So, they directed her to me, and I was like, cool. She threw a big number at me, and I was like, yo, this is it. So, I was very excited, and I took it on, and I said, yeah, I'll do it. So I borrowed one of the professional cameras from the job. I didn't have a camera of my own per se. I had a training camera, which was a K1000 Pentax. But I wanted something big and nice, and Fuji had a sale on with their film, so I grabbed a whole bunch of Fuji film, and I said, "Yo, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna get paid, right?" So what happened was I went and shot the event. It was all white people, and I figured I covered it well until I got back to develop it. I developed the film, and everything was whitewashed, everything was blown out, everything was just hideous. And back then we didn't have Photoshop, so the only way to correct it was to sit at the printer and try and add some yellows and some magentas and try to bring in life into the skin tone, because everything was just blown. It was like crazy. So I was going to put a book of 300 together, but I wound up putting a book of 200, which was the best of the best that I could get. And you know sometimes in my mind I thought I could get away with it, because what you think is good, if it's half of that, the customer really don't know, and it'll be permissible, and they'll accept it or whatever. But I gave her the book. I remember I dropped the book off, and she wasn't there. I dropped it off to, I think, her husband or something like that, and I got a phone call the next day. And the first thing she said was, "What the fuck is this?" So she went on to saying, the pictures are horrific. The pictures are hideous. What is it she want me to do with those pictures? She's like, what do you want? What are you giving me this for? This is crazy. So my mouth was dropped wide open, and as she kept talking on the phone, you could hear her voice tremble, and by the end of the conversation, she was pretty much crying. She was totally upset, and she was very distraught. Now, see, what I've learned from that is that, my mistake was I took advantage of Fujifilm being on sale, and if you know from photography back in the days, Kodak had warmer tones. Kodak would bring out more life, and shooting Fuji was mostly like for scenery, for grass, and it bland colors, and that had something to do with it. Also with the fact that my settings on my camera was only set, I was used to shooting, people with skin that weren't reflective, right? So everything was like I was shooting, dark skinned people, and everything was overblown, and strobe was just hitting hard like I normally shoot when I shoot black people. But she was totally upset. It really hurt my heart that this is the only opportunity I had to get this moment for her, and it totally destroyed. I wound up giving her half the money back and apologized up the yin yang. And what I learned from that was that learn what it is that you do your research, never take shortcuts, never go because something is on sale and you have an opportunity to get more out of something. So the lesson learned was, do your due diligence, never think you the shit, and just, try to be better at what it is you do. I learned from that. That was one of my biggest lessons early. Up until that point, I thought I was the shit, and she knocked me down to the ground, let me realize that I had a long way to go. I still do.